So, I know a lot of people have really focused their time during the second year around either, connecting more with community or finding additional ways to communicate with them through the work that their council is doing. So, I just wanted to try and offer a few slides to talk a little bit about those things and hopefully provide a little bit of resources. So, just talking a bit about developing authentic connections and communicating with community. Really having that open, transparent communication is a tool that can, impact community in a variety of ways. So the work that you're doing with these councils can, highlight a lot of priorities and concerns that may shift some of the mental models that community members or partners hold around the health concerns in your community and how you can work to address them. So, leading to maybe some potential shifts in resource allocation or policy and advocacy changes that you may have seen in your community. And it can also act as a way to level set. So, some of you have wanted to bring community in around your chaw and chip cycles. So, in making sure that you're able to highlight your work in a way that can bring folks together and generate that collective power and ensure that the work that your council is doing really resonates with the folks that may be engaging with the work, or engaging with your mini grant recipients, or other priority work that you're doing. Um, and as your council continues to grow and progress toward your established goals through your action plans, you can develop and establish a really strong community in terms of strong, long-lasting relationships, as well as focusing on developing those community capital pieces. So looking at kind of the generative factors around community power, specifically going to talk a bit about kind of the social power or the influence that you as a backbone organization and your councils hold within your community. And that sort of clout and recognition doesn't really go away when funding goes away. So it is a way to think about sustainability planning in terms of long-term how your council may show up, how community may interact with some of your partner organizations or your mini grantee organizations. So again, just kind of talking more about why this matters. It really strengthens that relationship between community. You're able to have kind of consistent messaging as well as being transparent, which many folks really appreciate as we um, work to meet the requirements that are often passed down to us. There's a lot that happens in public health, especially governmental public health for our health departments that can generate some mis and disinformation when that transparency piece isn't there. And so we can really increase our buy-in and build additional partnerships to support our work long term and build in that community capital to lead to overall systems change. So one way to really think about how you're building and establishing those relationships is looking at the community social capital model. So this I found through the Minnesota Extension Office. There are a lot of pieces of work that come through kind of agriculture and kind of community sustainability models that can really act as a benefit for our council work and us establishing kind of these cross-sector partnerships. And this is just one of them. So social capital describes the connections between individuals and organizations to make things happen. So this is kind of that generative piece of a lot of the hat that you all wear as a backbone organization, and it acts as a way to build the successful bonds, bridges, and links that you'll need to move towards your goal. And so thinking about ways that you can include your councils, your interested partners in open communication to bridge the divide and link one another to key resources. Uh, so it really establishes a way, to build in that efficacy, really establish kind of the power of your council members in terms of how far they've progressed, and know that this is not easy work. And so continuing to uplift the work and the successes that you all have done is a real value add, and I think really strengthens everything that you can do. And so, thinking about how you can bring in other partners and ensure that you're linking in the viewpoints of others. Part of that is going to be tailoring to community and other partners. So always taking into consideration tone, language, and vocabulary used in materials. Reflect on how you are distributing your reports, your updates, and any informational materials. So there's been a lot that you all have done with your councils. Many of you have kind of thought about developing impact reports, developing websites, engaging with social media. And so, you know, be sure to really highlight the work that you all have done throughout the past little over a year, and how you're bringing that back into community. I think we've all been in conversations in terms of learning or listening sessions that have heard we brought this up as a concern and never heard much more about it. So oftentimes there's work that's happening, work that you all are doing that may not be really well known. So I think that's always a point of reflection. Um, Also assess and identify ways that community members can be included in council priorities beyond membership. So how else are you incorporating community, whether that's through kind of community outreach and education, thinking about any priorities or surveying that you're doing with community, how are you ensuring that data resonates with the needs that they see on a day-to-day basis, um, possibly the why behind any information that you've gathered through kind of community surveying or community listening, so that you can ensure that there is alignment across what you've found as well as what the lived experience is. So part of that tailoring is going to be identifying audience and potential partners. So, consider who you serve, think about who are potential partners, program participants, places to focus your efforts when it comes to sharing and educating around your work. Um, this will increase the interest and engagement. About the groups and sectors critical to your council's work. Um, know that we have done a bit of eco mapping to figure out who we already connected with, but this may be a way to map out key intended audiences, see how they're showing up, and what's of interest or can create some buy-in for them. So you may see things that pop up in a way that maybe you hadn't originally considered or thought about. And so one of the ways that you can do that is by mapping out those priorities. So start by thinking about a particular goal, activity, or topic that you're looking to share or highlight. And then think about the audiences or attendance partners that you're looking to engage based on that particular goal activity topic. And then list out the reasons why this is a priority. Consider what makes it important. Why would they either be interested in engaging in that listening session? Why would they want to invest in a community health worker program? What is the overall benefit or how they may gain? And even thinking further in terms of how you would look for them to engage with said activity, or um, what are you hoping that in turn will happen as a result of your program or activity? So this was an example one that I just kind of threw together based on some of the work that you all are doing. So increasing the accessibility of healthcare through community health workers. So some of the potential audiences, can be pretty vast, but community members who may possibly participate in a community health worker training. They may find that it's much easier to access health information when they have someone local to their community that they trust to engage with. Policymakers may be, enthused about overall increased community health and improved health outcomes. Um, Insurance is always going to be happy that folks may potentially be receiving more preventative care, a slightly easier access to care. This could even, go as far as thinking about kind of the education sector and potential benefits around uh, a group of folks who have a new career path available to them that is pretty accessible. And I would say typically careers in healthcare are pretty stable. So it is a secure form of a career pathway for individuals. There are a lot of ways that you could utilize something like this. So you can use that to generate, whether that's print or digital media, reports, informationals, what have you, in a way that will really reach the targets that you want. As I said, you could identify new potential partners to engage as you start to think about the impacts of your activities in a deeper way. You may identify a sector that you hadn't originally considered who may be interested in your work, who could be a potential partner, maybe a potential funder. Um, and so there's that added benefit. And then lastly, you hold your council accountable to the community they serve by meeting their needs, their interests, and informing them of your work. So you're overall going to be able to really ensure that you're creating interest as well as some transparency around the activities. I think as we continue to grow and work through this funding stream and with the councils, the work that you all do will continue to get noticed. And so it's always nice for more and more community to have a full, complete picture of your work and how that can be implemented. Last slide. So now that you have your completed audience matrix, you'll have another tool to identify key partners and to strategize how to best engage them because you understand what is most important to them. You can kind of tailor any outreach statements you might do or funding seeking you may do going forward. As public health practitioners, we are all responsible for ensuring the health of our community. Um, and that means making sure that they're well educated on health topics and concerns. Tailoring our message in terms of what is important will always lead to the greatest success. And when I say greatest success, I mean, reducing mis and disinformation, ensuring that our programs have awareness in terms of those who are most interested and most ready to engage with them. And then looking at our third bullet, priorities and important factors from your matrix may guide aims for future RFPs or council initiatives. So the other side of that may be when you go to kind of map out what is interesting, you'll identify a reason that this work is important that you hadn't considered, or maybe you may have some activities that sort of touch it, but haven't fully drilled down to that. So that is a potential benefit there. And then lastly, as a backbone organization and as a council, you are accountable to the communities you serve, and that means having to share the outcomes that matter effectively. So always, making sure that folks have a complete understanding and are pretty well engaged. So this was it. It was just a pretty brief presentation, but I can answer any questions that folks may have.
Danielle, I threw this in the
Oh,
chat, but I
yay.
get that you can't read chat while you're presenting. So you're a superhero, but that would be a ridiculous expectation of even you. This was really helpful, and I think it would be great to share with
Yeah.
the council. Is it something that you can email out?
Yeah, I'll email it out.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
I was just curious. I just came on. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, just wondering what the title of the presentation was.
Oh, yeah. So, what did I call it? Connecting and communicating with community. So, we talked a lot today about how best to engage community and how we can really communicate with them effectively. And part of that was that last half around the audience mapping. Um, I think it could be a helpful way to think about how are we reaching folks? How are we connecting with them? Is this even of interest to you? Which I sometimes wonder as I develop things personally. So we did record this part. I can pause this recording now. I don't remember how.